Good evening everybody. In today's video we'll take an in-depth look at the history between guitar hero Buckethead and iconic Guns N' Roses frontman Axl Rose. So let's begin.
I see your sister in a Sunday dress.
The story begins in late 1999, 3 years after lead guitarist Slash had quit the band and shortly after one of his replacements, Robin Fink, had left.
When Robin Fink had left to rejoin Nine Inch Nails, we were looking for a guitar player and we had auditioned a few people, and one day I walked into the studio and Axl goes, "Buckethead, do you know him?" I go, "I've known him since '91, man."
Axl had first became aware of Buckethead through his newly released album Monsters and Robots, which Buckethead was promoting whilst on tour with Primus.
Who's this guitar playing sons of bitch?
Through Josh Freese, Axl called Buckethead in November of '99 and invited him to his house for a Christmas party. At the time, Buckethead was apprehensive about joining GNR because it wasn't really his kind of thing. A 2002 press release for Buckethead's album Bermuda Triangle recounts the meeting, stating, "At a 1999 Christmas party at Axl Rose's house, the Guns N' Roses leader, whom he had never met before, presented Buckethead with a gift. A hard-to-find leather-faced doll no one else had given him." Buckethead would later tell the story to MTV, stating he took the gesture as a sign and that Axl must understand me somehow. So it wasn't because of money or fame that Buckethead joined GNR, it was all because of a leather-faced doll. Excellent. Buckethead officially joined Guns N' Roses in March 2000, and as for the signing of the contract,
he signed his contract with Axl at Disneyland. I think Axl went to Disneyland and they signed on the Haunted Mansion. I think as he was on the ride, he signed the contract.
And although you could probably throw away this story as being a joke with anybody else, knowing what we know about Buckethead, it's probably true. In fact, in a December 2008 forum post, Axl himself stated, "I'm pro-Disney, go about once a year. Went with Buckethead a lot."
Welcome to Buckethead Land.
The new GNR would play their first shows less than a year later in January 2001 in Las Vegas and Brazil, before announcing and later cancelling a European tour. Twice. Both of these times, GNR manager Doug Goldstein would release a statement putting the blame on Buckethead. The first time stating that Buckethead had a stomach ailment, the second time saying that unfortunately Buckethead's illness not only stopped the tour, but it slowed down our progress on Chinese democracy. Yep, Buckethead slowed down the making of Chinese democracy so much that it took another 7 years to come out. And 4 of those years Buckethead wasn't even there. Shut your face.
This is such a crock of shit!
Incidentally, when both of these statements were released, Buckethead had already put out a handful of albums that year, was in the middle of making Bermuda Triangle for a 2002 release, and recorded the soundtrack for John Carpenter's Ghosts of Mars. The band would eventually tour in late 2002, which not only included the infamous VMA Awards appearance, but also a handful of riots and the firing of GNR manager Doug Goldstein. The tour was eventually cancelled in December 2002.
I'm going home!
I think what happened was Axl was still pulling his moves, and I think that Clear Channel was just getting kind of sick of it. So I think they were just like, we're gonna flip and pull the plug. And I think he just missed those and they pulled the plug.
While Guns N' Roses remained inactive in 2003, Buckethead took a hiatus from the band, released several albums, toured with his former band the Deli Creeps, and auditioned for Ozzy Osbourne. Buckethead would officially leave Guns N' Roses in early 2004, citing GNR's inability to complete an album or tour.
I think he was just like, I'm not having fun in this anymore. Because with Bucket, it's about fun, you know, and I think that it just wasn't fun anymore. Every band I've been in with him or anything I've done, when it's not fun anymore, I know he just doesn't like to be involved.
Buckethead's departure led to GNR cancelling an appearance at 2004's Rock in Rio event and European tour, despite it being over 2 months away. Axl later released a lengthy statement saying, among other things, that Buckethead was inconsistent and erratic and that he had let the fans down. Yep, Axl Rose calling someone inconsistent and erratic and accusing them of letting fans down. Irony? GNR would later replace Buckethead with Bumblefoot and then went on a European tour. 2 years later.
Bucket's Bucket, you know, and he's just kind of been the same trip he's been before he was in with us, and when he's out, that's his kind of world's his own.
Axl would further mention Buckethead in early 2008 after soda company Dr. Pepper offered to give everyone in America a free can of soda that year if Chinese Democracy was released. Everyone except Buckethead and Slash. Axl responded by saying, as some of Buckethead's performances are on the album, I'll share my Dr. Pepper with him.
I sit here on the stairs.
Chinese Democracy was eventually released that year on November 23, 2008, 4.5 years after Buckethead left the band. And no, not everyone in America received a Dr. Pepper. A month later, Axl joined a Chinese Democracy forum chat which, among other things, said that one of his favourite parts of the album was Buckethead's playing on the song Prostitute, and that Buckethead's intro to Shackler's Revenge reminds him of an elephant. Since then, with the exception of Axl putting a KFC bucket on his head at a show in 2010, there's been no mention or interaction between the two. Personally, I think that whilst a lot of the blame for cancelled shows, delays and riots rightfully should fall on Axl Rose's shoulders, a large majority of the problem at the time were caused by mismanagement and Axl Rose brown nosers.
And then it wasn't even about music anymore. It was just about, oh, they're wearing Bucket out. Oh, they're wearing me out. Oh, Robin's upset. Oh, Tommy's quitting. Oh, you know, you know what I mean?
And whilst it's easy to criticise Axl Rose for things he's done and said throughout his career, he certainly deserves some credit for appreciating Buckethead for who he was and who he is, when others haven't.
Oh, fuck off!
And we got a pretty good album out of it, which, in my opinion, without Buckethead's playing on it, would have become an average one. Woo!
If I would have been hanging out with this guy for 13 years, it's like I'm not sure if either of us would be here.
I like to go to the slaughterhouse after it closes because there's still lots of blood everywhere, and I like to play and rub it all over myself and then look in the mirror